Don Lemon has been criminally indicted in Minnesota. We're going to get that today on Legal Mindset. We teach you to be your own judge. Of course, I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney. This is a fast facts video, the quick and dirty version of the latest legal news. We have a little bit of a new format today. So if you like that, you like the format, make sure you let me know in the comments below. So let's get right into it with the facts. First of all, we have our defendant here, former newscaster Don Lemon, who was part of a organization, part of a group that led anti-ICE protesters into a church worship service. Now, originally they had tried to indict him separately. However, they've gone again and done this, and that's been led, of course, by Harmy Dillon and the plaintiffs, the DOJ, who have brought federal criminal charges against him successfully now in court. So let's get into what those mean. We have the actual indictment here, and you see he's named Don Ronaldo Lemon along with 9 other individual defendants, 2 of which are redacted by the court, and that's under 3 separate criminal charges. So we're going to get into those different charges that are part of 2 separate counts. So they're charging the as 3 charges, but there's 2 counts. The first is 28 USC 241, which is conspiracy against rights. And the next is 18 USC 248, the FACE Act, of which they include 18 USC 2A, which is aiding and abetting. So essentially, they say under this act, even if he's not the principal, even if he's not the person that led the way, he's not the exact one who's in charge, he still aided and abetted, and that makes him liable under 18 USC 2. So let's get into the actual meat, the substance of this. What does conspiracy of rights means first? Well, there's 9 co-conspirators, including the protest organizers, and they are charged with a whopping 29 different overt actions, which are possible to convict. Important to note here is that it really only takes 1. So of these 29 things, if they can get them on one, just one, they can make a conviction here. And that's what's really important. And that's what makes this case very difficult in the position of Don Lemon, because he's got to defend against all of these things and say, hey, look, I didn't do any of them and none of them were me. I had no liability here. That's a very, very tough fight. So what do those things include? Well, they're things like posting on Instagram. So when you're releasing information on Instagram, on social media, that is what they call an overt action, something you're openly taking an act that goes towards the crime. You might have other things such as gathering physically to conspire, them kind of doing a little team huddle beforehand and saying, okay, guys, here's what we're going to do. This is exactly what we're going to do. That's conspiring as well. You've got live streaming the Don Lemon show. That is explicitly mentioned in the criminal complaint, that the live streaming of the show was part of this criminal conspiracy. Then you've got stating they were keeping the target secret. I'm going to show you on the next slide where Don Lemon himself was part of this, where Don Lemon himself said, hey, I know what's going on. I know what the target is. I know what the location is. I am not going to say it. So he said openly, I know what it is. We're keeping it secret. That is not journalism. That is criminal conspiracy. Next, you've got entering and disrupting the church service. That's very straightforward. That's something, hey, look, physically you went into there and you disrupted the service. That's the FACE Act, and we'll get into what that means exactly. You've got gesturing aggressively and hostilely. Remember, there were women, children, the elderly in this service. They were going out there targeting people, targeting vulnerable people like children and the elderly, and going out and committing this criminal conspiracy. They were also physically obstructing the service. They didn't just come in there and yell and leave. No, they actually obstructed the service to the point where it could not go on. And then you've got blocking a minivan of children. This is there's many other acts. This is not all 29, but one that I think is particularly disgusting because they tried to take this out, not just on, the pastor or adult men or whatever else. They took this out on children. They went out there knowing this was a bus of children and went out there and obstructed it. Absolutely monstrous behavior by these. Then you've got this particular overt acts I want to point to from the actual criminal complaint, but we've got Don Lemon here. And let me read this out. During a discussion with Defendant Armstrong at the pre-op meeting, Defendant Lemon thanked Defendant Armstrong for what she was doing and assured her that he was, quote, not saying what's going on, i.e. was not disclosing the target of the operation. Defendant Armstrong explained that Operation Pull-Up was a quote unquote clandestine operation in which she and other agitators would quote show up somewhere that is a key location where the targets don't expect us.
This is an operation that is secret.
This is Operation Pull Up, more of a clandestine operation. We show up somewhere, they don't expect us to come there, and then we disrupt business as usual.
And we disrupt business as usual. That's what we're about to go do now. And Defendant Lemon said he would see her there. So it shows he knew. Lemon knew exactly what was going on. And then another overt act. So once again, this is one. They can convict just on this, enough for a conviction. But look, we've got another overt act 7. Before heading to the church to join his co-conspirators, Defendant Lemon advised his live stream audience that we're going to head to the operation. Again, we are not going to give any of the information away. That is, i.e. operational details. So we see right there with these things, absolutely knowing what's going on and not disclosing it. That is, ladies and gentlemen, conspiracy. And that gets into the FACE Act. The FACE Act is a freedom of access to clinic entrances. Now, yes, the title would make you believe this just applies to abortion clinics, but that's not true. It actually protects both abortion clinics and churches. So it's kind of even-handed. We got something that, hey, the left likes that. Well, the right likes churches, right? So we're going to protect both. We're going to protect abortion clinics just the same, equal-handedly, with we're going to protect churches. Very fair and I think fairly applied and fairly balanced criminal act. And it criminalizes physical obstruction to intimidate, interfere with, or injure persons. So whether or not you're going to an abortion clinic or whether or not you're going to a church service, someone cannot physically obstruct or interfere with people that are going to access those locations. So if you're going in there to going to the abortion clinic for whatever, and these clinics do for other reproductive health reasons, you might be going to them, you might be getting a checkup or some sort of STD test, whatever else, you cannot be physically obstructed, intimidated, or interfere with. And if you're going to a church service, you can't be physically obstructed, intimidated, or interfere with. Very, very fair. And for first-time offenders, because remember, Don Lemon would not be a repeat offender. He's not someone who's, got a rap sheet that's leading all the way into Tulsa. This is something where you've got up to 6 months of prison or a $10K fine, right? So you've got up to 6 months of prison, that's real prison time, or a $10K fine. Most likely they would give him a fine, right? So he most likely would be fined under this, but it is possible he could get some prison time. So prison time is not off the table for Lemon. So what does this mean? Well, I think this is an excellent test for application of the FACE Act. And I also think particularly for journalists, because Lemon is going to still use the journalism defense. He's using it all over social media. That's the clear criminal defense here, is to say, this is journalism. I was a journalist. The problem is knowing you were going to do something criminal. When he appeared to have knowledge of a planned church service, the second he had knowledge they were going to a church service, it crossed the line from something that was potentially legal and potentially covered and potentially a peaceful protest to something that is absolutely not okay. Any communications between Lemon and the protest organizers are relevant, and it appears they already have proof of that because he live streamed the whole thing. When you live stream your crimes, just like Vitali or Somali or any other nuisance streamer, when you're out there going out and actually showing your crimes, it makes it very easy for the police, very easy for law enforcement to convict you, because they could just point to your stream and say, there you go, you committed this crime live in 4K. So I think there's a high likelihood of success based on the number of overt actions. You only need one to convict, but we're going to have to see. Obviously, that's on the DOJ, that's on the plaintiffs to prove. The burden of proof is on them, but I think Don Lemon has to seriously sweat over this. I don't know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll catch you on the next one.